Starting a new role-playing campaign is always exciting, but sometimes when you finally start playing, you find it to be lacking. The characters can also feel a bit out of place in the world. But I think I have found a simple 3-phase approach to planning a new campaign that avoids all of these issues and more. So let's just dive in with phase 1 of 3, which I call place. Now, to illustrate this process throughout the video, I'm going to use these handy notebooks and some other tools sent to me by today's sponsor, which is Sphinx Stationary. They make all kinds of wonderfully crafted journals that are made specifically to enhance and support role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons. For example, their dungeon planner, which we will be using a lot today, is organized by general, world, sessions, quests, and notes. With sections like the world tab including major NPCs, minor NPCs, key organizations, and even items. But also includes dry erase foldouts like an in-depth initiative sheet, a gridded battle map, and a party tracker. Phase 1 naturally begins with the dungeon master, and so we're going to start with the dungeon planner, specifically at the world tab. Phase 1 is called place because it is just the setting. Now that sounds obvious, of course, so here's the important distinction. Don't go deep. Here's what I mean. Start with just the genre of the setting. Is it classic fantasy, dark fantasy, steampunk? For the sake of example, I'm going to make a world that is dark fantasy. And our example setting will be called Grey Wind. Now, in addition to the genre and the name, give your setting just a handful of distinguishing points. For example, the Kingdom of Dern. And let's add a cornerstone to the economy. Let's say the trading of soul gems. And now all you have to do is stop. That's it. You're done with phase 1. And now it's the player's turn with phase 2, which is person. You can tell I'm the player now because I talk differently and I'm wearing a different shirt. Phase 2 is all about the players and their characters. We're not using this dungeon planner anymore. Instead, we're switching to the Sphinx Stationary campaign notes journal, starting, of course, with the character tab. And now all we gotta do is make our character. Now this is gonna feel a bit strange considering we don't know a lot about the world, but that is the point. You see, all I gotta do is make the character that I want to play. As long as it generally fits the world we have so far, I can and should play whatever I want. Let me show you. Now I've always wanted to play a tabaxi named Milo. He's gonna be a ranger who grew up in a community of other orphaned humanoid animals, and whose rival is a Luxodon bastard who ran off with the love of my life and started a very lucrative business trading soul gems with fish people. Son of a gun. As an aside, you might be thinking, how are you gonna track your HP and all that stuff in your campaign journal? It's all on paper, you gotta erase it, you gotta do all of that. No. There's a fold-out, dry erase character sheet, which is honestly organized a lot better than your default 5e character sheet. Also, I should be using a pencil for all this. I don't know why I had a Sharpie, but I'm gonna write a lot of this in post anyway, so anyway, I got a pencil now, so it's all good. Now, believe it or not, once all the players have made their dream characters, like Milo here, you have the perfect setup to start a magical, one-of-a-kind campaign with phase 3. Phase 1 was place, phase 2 was person. Any guesses on phase 3? Leave your guesses in the comments while I go change my shirt and drop this obnoxious knockoff New Jersey accent. Oh, but one more thing before I go. If you're still watching the video and you haven't liked it, you haven't subscribed to the channel, you could, and it would be pretty cool if you did. So, maybe do. And you can also subscribe to my weekly email digest, which is called the Arcane Almanac. It's a cool name. It's an awesome newsletter full of nerdy activities every week and a bunch of stuff for D&D nerds like yourself. You can find it down below. All you need is your email, okay? Okay, good. Anyway. Phase 3 is plot. The Dungeon Master has made a general setting, and the players have made specific characters. And now as the Dungeon Master, you bring them together. First, we take the details of the player characters and canonize them. Anything that's part of the character backgrounds is now part of your world. Now in the Dungeon Planner, I can actually turn to the General tab and write in information for each party member, and then use that as reference moving forward. I just noticed I have this little feather of hair. Too late now. For example, from our first player character, we've learned that there is a community of orphaned humanoid animals. So I'm going to go to these settlements pages and make this place canon in the world. We've also learned that there's likely a bad guy named Johnny who sells soul gems, and because that player made such a big point about him and his backstory, I'm gonna make him a major NPC. And of course, there are major NPC pages that even come with their own little character sheets if you want to have in-depth stats for those characters. And you continue this way with all of the player characters, any NPCs, places, items, factions, whatever it may be from their backstories. You can then add that to your world. You can accomplish most of your remaining world building using the background from the characters. And now you get to bring it all together with a starting quest. In other words, the very beginning of your plot. My favorite way to do this is to try to create some problem that is relevant to the backstories of every single character, and use that as a beacon in the world to bring all the characters to one spot. Or if that's too difficult to do, you can create a semi-powerful NPC who is in need of a team of people with a very specific set of skills that of course happens to align with the skills that the players have. Now obviously this video is not about how to run a campaign once it's started. Instead, it's about getting it off on a reliably good foot and a good foundation every time. But with that being said, I do have a few specific tips for maintaining that foundation as you begin to play. The first tip is fairly obvious, but you should reference lore that your characters have created throughout the campaign. Very simple and easy way to do this is to create shops that the player characters can encounter that sell items specific to the places that these player characters are from. Sphinx Stationary actually makes these sticky notes that are designed specifically for quickly and easily making a store. You can list the store owner, type, shop description, owner description, and a list of item descriptions, and their prices. So we can make a store that sells Johnny the Luxodon branded soul gems. And then when you write that store, you can take it off and stick it on your conspiracy wall where you keep all of your strange campaign notes and tidbits. You do have a conspiracy wall, right? The second tip is that I try to consistently use characters and places from the player character backstories as a point of interest on the current quest. If it's at all reasonable for a quest to lead to a character-specific NPC or location, then it will. And a final general rule is simply making things easy for your players to play the game. Things like the campaign notes journal is great for long-term campaigns, but I'm also a really big fan of things like these session pads, because they're a very easy way for characters to keep track of things session by session, and to keep the campaign timeline on a session-by-session basis. A big thank you to Sphinx Stationary for sponsoring today's video. If you liked these journals or these sticky notes, they have sticky notes made specifically for D&D 5th edition items. They also just came out with this awesome initiative system. Come with these foldable cards, one side for the DM, one side for the player, and foldable condition cards, which are very neatly organized with really cute tabs. Anyway, let me know in the comments your thoughts and if you found this video helpful at all. And in the meantime, please have an excellent, excellent day.